In this video, I will show you how to create reusable branded Fusion titles in DaVinci Resolve, similar to the ones that you see us use on this channel. I will create a customizable banner that incorporates our logo. The principles we will discuss could be used to create a variety of different assets. I'm starting with an empty project. I have created a timeline and inserted a typical clip of Natalie presenting. This will help us to design and position our graphic. From the effects panel, create a blank Fusion composition above the sample footage. Make sure the playhead is positioned over the Fusion composition and then head to the Fusion page. If you are new to Fusion, here's a very quick introduction. Fusion is a node-based compositor. Images are built by combining different nodes together in a tree-like structure in this panel. There are many different types of nodes. Each performs a different function. These two windows up here allow you to view the image you are creating, and the inspector over here on the right allows you to configure the settings of your nodes. Media out is a special kind of node. It's always at the end of your node tree. It's what delivers your finished image back to the edit page. At the moment, nothing is connected, so there is no image. I will start by adding a background node. My favorite way to find a node is to hit Shift plus spacebar and type the node's name. Each node you create will have a variety of inputs and outputs. Inputs are indicated by triangles and outputs are indicated by squares. Some nodes have more, some have less. I will connect the output of the background node to the input of media out 1. As you can see, a background node fills the entire screen with a color. By default, that color is black, but I will make it completely transparent by setting the alpha to 0. Background nodes are a fundamental building block that you will end up using a lot. I'd like to create a background for my banner. I will create another background node. This node is not currently connected to my node tree. It doesn't feed into that media out node, so I won't see it in my final image. We'll address that later. For now, it's helpful that I can build this next element in isolation, but I still need a way of monitoring what I am doing. You might have noticed that Fusion has two different viewers. Media out 1 is currently equipped in the right-hand viewer. These dots below the node also indicate that. I can equip the background node in the left-hand viewer by simply dragging and dropping. As mentioned before, it fills the entire screen with a color, by default black. Let's change that to something more colorful. To limit that fill to just a portion of the screen, I can add an effect mask. You can create elliptical masks, rectangular masks, or custom shapes. I'll create a rectangle node and connect it to the background node's effect mask input. And voila! The combination of the rectangle and background node allows me to create colored shapes. I will adjust the size and position of the rectangle node to build my banner. I will even add rounded corners. In order for my work to be visible in the final composition, I must connect this with my primary node pipeline. That's done with a merge node. Now, you can create merge nodes manually, but then you have to connect them manually. So let me undo that and show you the quicker way. Simply drag the output of one node onto the output of another, and Fusion will create and connect a merge node. A newcomer to Fusion might think this looks awfully complicated because creating a simple box has taken 4 nodes. That's because each step involved in creating this shape is exposed and lives in its own node. As this composition progresses, you will see that is actually Fusion's superpower and can make your life easier. I'd like this banner to have a frosted glass effect where the underlying clip is blurred behind the banner. First things first, I will make this color banner partially transparent by selecting the merge node and reducing its blend value. This is essentially its opacity. Next, we need to blur the clip of Natalie that's going to live under this title. Do you remember in the edit page when we created this Fusion composition that a clip of Natalie was underneath it? Well, Fusion has this incredible feature that allows you to access the clips in the edit page that are underneath your Fusion composition. Create a media in node. I shall equip it in the left-hand viewer, and then set its media source to background. And look at that, it's pulling from the edit page the clip that was underneath the Fusion composition. To blur that image, I can add a Gaussian blur node. Because I already have the media in node selected, when I hit Shift plus spacebar and find the Gaussian blur node and add it, Fusion will automatically connect it in line. I can't see the blur though, as I'm monitoring the media in node, not the Gaussian blur node. So I will drag the Gaussian blur node up to the viewer. That's better. I can see the blur and I can adjust it in the inspector. Let's connect this to my primary node pipeline. I have a choice. Should I connect it after my banner shape or before my banner shape? Well, these are the sorts of decisions you need to make regardless of whether you're working in a node-based or layer-based compositor. I'm going to put it before my shape. I'll use that cool trick to automatically create and connect the merge node. At the moment, it's blurring the entire image, not just the banner. One of the awesome things about node-based compositing is how easy it is to reuse assets that you have already created. I can use the same rectangle node that is controlling the shape of my banner to control the shape of this Gaussian blur. But there are a couple of places I could connect it. Some will work, others won't. For example, if I connect it to the effects mask input of the media in background node that is bringing the clip from the edit page, it masks the image before it gets blurred, which results in an unwanted feathered edge. Let's break that connection. This time I will connect it to the mask input of the merge node. This means the mask is being applied after the Gaussian blur, which now gives us a clean edge. Look how easy it was to reuse that mask elsewhere in my composition. I'd like the banner to appear like frosted glass. An easy way to accomplish that is by adding some sort of static noise. It will look like texture on the glass. I will create a fast noise node and equip it in the left-hand viewer so you can see what it looks like. By increasing its scale, the pattern gets smaller until it looks like noise. Adding contrast will help too. Now I can merge that with the blurred background image. By default, the merge node replaces the background input with the foreground input. Changing the merge apply mode to overlay will combine the background and foreground image. I can adjust the blend value until I find a look that I like. This video is sponsored by Audiio, where with our discount code, you can get 70% off an entire year of royalty-free music. We use Audiio for all of our music. I'd like to highlight a genuinely useful feature, and that is their phone app. The homepage features new artists and playlists. That's a great place to start if you don't know what you're looking for yet. If you're out and about, when you've got time to kill, instead of listening to the music you already know, you can explore Audiio's library and start building ideas for your next edit. If you're looking for something specific, head to search. You can do all the normal stuff like search through song titles, artists, and keywords, or you can hit this button in the middle. This is Hands AI. It understands the music in Audiio's library. You can either describe the kind of song you're looking for or describe the kind of video you're looking to make. Either way, when you find songs you like, mark them as a favorite. Now when you sit down to start editing, instead of starting from zero, you're already ahead. You can get an entire year of Audiio Pro for just $60 using our discount code in the description. I will now add our logo. I could animate it from scratch using nodes, but as it's an asset that we regularly use, I have already created an animation and saved it out into a Fusion-friendly format, EXRs. You can, of course, use other formats too. Please note that the animation is only 24 frames long. This template needs to be portable, something that I can share with other editors, something that will work on Windows, Mac, and Linux, or in any of the many DaVinci Resolve projects that we create. How can I get this logo into my Fusion composition? Ordinarily, you might import it into your media pool and drag it into your composition. Instead of doing that, we are going to store the logo in a DaVinci Resolve system folder and use a loader node to access it. I've copied it into the folder where DaVinci Resolve stores its Fusion templates. We'll talk more about that later. I will use a loader node to access it. I will navigate to the folder where the EXRs are stored. There you go. Because of the way that I saved this EXR, I need to do a little bit of color management on it. This might not apply to your setup. And now if I equip that loader node in the left-hand viewer, you can see my animation. At the moment, this loader node uses an absolute file reference. If you loaded this Fusion composition on a Windows machine, Fusion wouldn't be able to find this file because Windows doesn't use the volume folder for mounting drives. So I'm going to replace the first part of the file path, the Mac specific part, with the text templates semicolon. This is a system variable that always points to the DaVinci Resolve Fusion templates folder. So Fusion knows where that templates folder is, no matter what operating system you are using. Now, as long as this asset has been installed in the DaVinci Resolve templates folder, Fusion will always be able to find it. Awesome. The animation is only 24 frames long. We want Fusion to hold the last frame, so I will enter a really large value here. It doesn't matter what it is, just make it really long so that the logo stays on screen no matter how long people make this title in the edit. Let's merge it with the primary pipeline and then size and position the logo. That's looking good. The final element is text. A text plus node is what we need. I will merge it with the primary pipeline. Choose a font size, and then position it using the text plus nodes layout controls. I like to build first and then animate. Everything is in place. Let's give this some life. I want the banner to wipe in from above. Here's a cool trick. Let's copy the rectangle mask that we used to create the banner shape. You can combine masks together by connecting them via their effect mask input. On the second rectangle mask, I will change its paint mode to minimum. That means the mask will only appear where these two shapes overlap each other. Now, look what happens if I move that first mask up and down. Pretty cool. It wipes that banner on, and it even maintains those really nice rounded corners. Let's position it above so the banner disappears completely. Create a keyframe at 0 frames, then jump to 12 frames and create a new keyframe with it in place. Let's have the text right on once that banner has appeared. That can be accomplished by animating the text's right on property. At 12 frames, I will set a keyframe with it at 0. And then at 24 frames, I shall create another keyframe with it fully written on. At the moment, those two animations have linear keyframe interpolation. That means they have no easing, so they will look a little bit mechanical. Easing can be set in either the spline or keyframe panel. I prefer using the spline panel for this. It's showing me all the animations I have created. If any aren't visible for you, try hitting this button, which will zoom it to fit everything in. I will select all the keyframes and hit S on the keyboard. That's the hotkey for smooth, which will basically ease all the keyframes I have selected. This is looking great. I have created the opening animations. I'd also like the title to animate out. Your initial inclination might be to create an animation at the end of your Fusion composition with keyframes. But when you put this template in the edit page and make it longer or shorter, your animations will end up being cut off if you make the title shorter, or they'll end up in the middle if you make the title longer. Normally, you might solve that problem with a tool called the keyframe stretcher. You'd place it here at the end of your node pipeline, but before the media out node. You can now configure it so that Fusion knows when the intro animation ends and the outro animation starts. And then depending on the length of the title in the edit page, it will preserve the outro and intro and just stretch out the middle part of your animation. Sadly, that tool doesn't seem to work with media in background nodes like I'm using to blur the timeline clip behind the banner. But don't worry, I have an alternate solution. Buckle in. I want the entire banner to slide off the bottom of the screen at the end. Instead of animating each element individually, instead I will add a transform node. Because of its position in my node pipeline, it will essentially move everything prior with one single control. As just explained, I can't keyframe this because I can't use that keyframe stretcher tool because of the other tools I've used in this composition. Instead, I have written a brief expression. This isn't a scripting lesson, so we won't examine this in detail, but here's a quick explanation. The center property in the transform node expects an X and a Y value. You feed back those two values using the point function. The X value isn't changing, so that's hard coded at 0.5. The Y value is what changes, hence there's a big old expression here. It starts with an if statement that works out whether or not we are within the final 12 frames of the composition. Because it's using the comp.RenderEnd property, this will always reflect the actual length of the composition, regardless of how long or short you make it in the edit page. If we're not in the final 12 frames of the composition, it returns 0.5. If we are in the final 12 frames, it uses this bit of maths here to adjust the Y value and move the banner down. It actually uses some clever maths to ease the movement too, so it doesn't look like a linear animation. If you want to modify this expression for your use, you can. If you want to change the length of the animation, change the number 12, wherever you see it in this expression. If you want to change how far the animation moves, change this value, which is currently 0.3. This expression will be in the description. Feel free to paste it into an AI agent like ChatGPT and ask what it does. It will explain everything that we've done and help you modify it as needed for your own animation work. Now, there's one last little thing I want to fix. This might seem minor, but details are important. Because I used a transform node at the end of my node pipeline to animate the banner off the screen, it actually ends up moving the blurred background with the banner. That's not what should happen. Natalie should stay still while the portion of the blurred image we see moves. I hope that makes sense. Unfortunately, that's a consequence of the way that I've built this node tree, but there's a simple fix using another expression. I will have the background move in a contra direction as the banner animates off. I will add a transform node directly after the media in background node, go to its center controls and add an expression. I want the Y value to be 1 minus the transform1.center.y property. Now you can see that as the banner animates off, the media in background node moves in the opposite direction, cancelling out that unwanted movement we introduced. This is looking fantastic. Our title is designed, but it needs to be turned into a template that can be applied in the edit page and adjusted without having to travel to Fusion. To create a template, select all the nodes in the composition except for the media out node. We don't need to include that, as when you create a template, a media out node is automatically added. If we included this one, then there would be 2 media out nodes in our template, which can cause issues. Right-click and go to Macro, Create Macro. This interface allows you to select the Fusion properties that you want to be exposed in the edit page. You can really go crazy here. We could expose size controls for the banner, color controls for the background. You can expose whatever you want. I'm going to keep this simple though. I'm only going to expose the text control. Here it is. It's called styled text. I will enable it with this checkbox. You can also rename the control so it makes more sense in the edit page. I will call it message. There are a growing number of ways that you can save your Fusion templates. I'm going to show you the method we use. Remember earlier I showed you the logo animation that we had saved as an EXR? I had saved that into the DaVinci Resolve Fusion template folder. There's actually 2 of these folders. There's a system-wide one that will apply to every user that logs onto your computer, and there's a specific user folder that only you will have access to. I'm using the system folder, so everyone has access to it. Here is where you will find it on a Mac or Windows computer. Inside of that folder, Fusion templates are split into different folders for Fusion templates that are built for different pages. For example, the edit page or the Fusion page. We're building this for the edit page, so we are in the edit folder. And inside that folder, templates are split further into different categories. This is a title. That's where I placed my logo animation EXRs, and that's the folder I'm going to save this template into as well. I'm saving it as a .setting file. I'll call it custom banner 1. That's it. We're done. Immediately in the edit page, if I search for custom banner 1, don't forget to make sure you have search all folders selected. There it is. I can drag it into the timeline, change the text in the inspector, adjust it to whatever length I need, and the intro and the outro animations stay at the beginning and at the end of that title. If you're producing regular content, it's worth taking the time to create your own branded assets. It's a great way to save time and improve the quality of what you produce. And we're only just scratching the surface here of what you can do with Fusion templates. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like, say hi in the comments, and consider sharing this video. It's good to have you here. Thanks for watching.